Facebook is under fire tonight. Some employees there reportedly pushing to remove Donald Trump's post, labeling the content as, quote, hate speech. This despite CEO Mark Zuckerberg's decree last year that it would be quite inappropriate to censor this candidate. Joining me now to discuss, Heather Higgins, Scott Miller, and Greg Speed. Greg, I'll start with you. You know, Facebook came under a tremendous amount of pressure for their obvious shenanigans involving conservatives and a conservative voice, and now to label Donald Trump's actions on social media as hate speech, that's beyond the pale.
Well, first of all, I think the charges about the trending stories and such were somewhat trumped up in the end. But look at the substance of the speech under discussion here. You had employees of Facebook, Muslim employees living overseas of this international company, upset very justifiably because Donald Trump was espousing a policy to deny them entry to this country based solely on their religion.
He was espousing a policy saying, listen, we shouldn't let people in the country who are coming from areas that are dominated by terrorists whose ultimate goal is to kill us, and those happen to be Muslim countries. But what gives them the right to disturb the free speech, the First Amendment of any American citizen, no matter what they're saying?
Well, first of all, that is not what Donald Trump had said. He had set a ban on Muslims and a national directory of Muslims in this country. That is purely about religion. That is not about anything other than that. Now, beyond that, I would say that Facebook ultimately decided not to do this. It went all the way to Mark Zuckerberg. So it's hard to, you know, say that they've engaged in some act of censorship when, in fact, they did not go along with the views and the very understandable views of their own employees.
Heather, listen, one of the big debates, right, with the notion of rigging, one of the big components of it is the media. And listen, I'm not sure how you make the media become fair, but we do know that there's an ideological tilt towards progressivism. We do know that they've given all, you know, 99% of their, you know, donations to the campaign have gone to Hillary Clinton, and we do know that it seems skewed. But this is the main source of media for a lot of people. What responsibility does Facebook have?
It's an interesting question, and there are other evidences of it. For example, the same story that talked about this also talked about the fact that the Facebook employees were upset about Peter Thiel. And he's the only one they're upset about, and it's because he gave a donation to Trump. So clearly they're playing political favorites. And the thing that I think should concern people is if you look at their policy and how they apply it, they're worried about the context of these statements, as not just the fact that there are statements, which means that they are defining for us what conversations we're allowed to have, not only that we're having right now and what the words are now, but what they might be. So this is really a form of suppression of speech. And one of the bedrock principles of American free speech is that you can't just base it on the fact that you're offended by something, because there's always going to be somebody who finds something offensive. And that's part of the myth of hate speech, right? Because it's a definition that sounds good in principle, but there's no objective definition, and it slides into speech that I hate, which quickly slides into suppression of speech and suppression.
And what we've seen, Scott, more recently is that the interpretation of speech and whether or not it's hate speech seems to get wider and wider. It's almost like the Nile River at this point. But didn't Mark Zuckerberg meet with conservatives and say, listen, almost a mea culpa to a certain degree, almost admit that they were doing some things wrong, that there were shenanigans? And I thought there was a pledge to have some new features put in place so that it was less of human emotions involved in this and the purity of content.
Well, there may have been a sort of a tacit commitment, but I think Heather's right. This idea that the context of what they're hearing they don't like, and they decide that that's wrong, and that's like what you're seeing on the college campuses of these, you know, unsafe speech. This, you know, and the media is just shocked that Donald Trump talks about the election being rigged. But my God, just go down the list. The IRS, rigged. DOJ, in Hillary's pocket. FBI, in Hillary's pocket. The Democratic primaries, rigged. The DNC, rigged. I mean, it comes as no surprise. I mean, Facebook is one of the minor incidents, and you know, they did not go through it, but this is going on and on and on, and And it's easy to see why a candidate would say, well, I'm not sure this whole election's not rigged.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the mainstream media has gone to war with Donald Trump this election. Thank you all very much. By the way, Facebook did close at an all-time high today.